What's good, everybody? Victory and Vices podcast, episode 25. Me, Rory Spooner, James Veck, we're back again. We got our special guest with us. The whole band is reunited recently. We got a lot to discuss. It's been a pretty hectic Christmas period so far. Me and Vecky recorded on the Monday night. And by Tuesday morning, before we even got to editing, Jose Mourinho was sacked, which put the kibosh on the whole other last podcast. So, Vecky, I'll let you take it away initially. Your thoughts on Mourinho and Solskjaer and the whole United debacle, as I'm going to call it, because it is a shit show right now.
Yeah, so as you guys know, I was a little bit originally at the start of the season, I came out and said you guys that I still back Mourinho, and I explained the reasons why that I wanted us to stick with him. As the season sort of went by and the results went the way that they did, I was slowly sort of starting, and we've mentioned in a couple of recent episodes, and we spoon about, you keep asking me, are you still Mourinho in? I was Jose out. The tide slowly started to turn, and on the day that he got dismissed, it did kind of feel like a massive weight was lifted off the shoulders. I can't really explain it, but when it got announced, I was kind of like, yeah, good, he's gone. I was kind of happy with it. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, I'll be honest, wasn't my first choice. He wasn't really in my list of choices. And to be fair, this time I wasn't really sure, because the last couple of times they got rid of managers, they've kind of had someone lined up almost straight away.
Yeah.
Obviously Moyes, that was already in the pipeline. Van Gaal, that was kind of pretty much set up already as well. So I don't know what the case is going to be at the end of the season, but like I say, he wasn't my initial choice. But I can understand some of the reasons as to why they have gone down that route. So far so good. It's only one game and one you probably expect us to win anyway. But I'm going to reserve a little bit of judgment at the moment to see what sort of comes of it, because there's one thing I will say is there's a very good buzz around the club at the moment, which we haven't seen for a long time.
It's very true, yeah.
And if that's going to breed, the type of football that we played against Cardiff, then I'm all for that at the moment. So, going to reserve a little bit of judgment for now, but quietly enjoying the way things are going.
I think 10 games is a good yardstick to judge him. I'd say give him 10 games. I'll be honest with you, I didn't want him. I thought Laurent Blanc would have been a better choice, given the fact he's managed at a higher level, with PSG. Solskjaer's win record, I had it over here. He relegated Cardiff, and at Molde he's had a 50% win record. If you took any other manager, bar who wasn't a United legend, right? So they have relegation on their CV, and the Norwegian league, they've got a 50% record. You'd laugh. You'd be like, no way is that guy going to take charge of a top club. Absolutely no way. But I think the issue, from what I gather with Laurent Blanc, was he wanted the job full-time after the 6 months, whereas I think United already have Pochettino lined up. I say that loosely. Again, let us know in the comments what you think about the United situation. Do you like Solskjaer? Who would you have brought in instead? Who do you want to be the long-term manager? I'm going to say Pochettino will get it, based upon the information that's coming out. It seems, I don't know, there's something about it that seems like like they've already put the feelers out.
The one thing I will say, and I'll bring Reece on this in just a second, but the one thing I'll say about, you pointed to Solskjaer's record being 50%. One thing that some people may not realise, because I'm pretty sure we'd all agree we don't exactly keep a very close eye on the Norwegian league, but he did win 2 consecutive titles with Molde, and they hadn't won the title for a very, very long time.
But really, is that significant to the point where you manage in a league club? No, but what I'm saying is
that 50% win rate, yes, you wouldn't look overly impressive, but in terms of what he did in that league was very, very good relative to sort of the difficulty of that league.
Yeah, no, that's a fair shout. Yeah, that's a fair shout.
And when he was, I think it was United youth or reserve manager.
Yeah, he managed pretty much most levels. Yeah,
he won the league there and he won a cup there as well. So you could look at the Cardiff situation, but the Cardiff situation was a dire situation anyway.
They were never going to stay up, but even then.
So I wouldn't really read too much into the whole Cardiff thing, because I reckon you could have put a lot of managers there and that situation might have been the same.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that I'm fully behind him and that I think he should be the manager to take us forward, but I just don't think we should completely write him off at the moment. What do you think, Reece?
Go on, Reece.
I agree that they had a good game against Cardiff, but if I'm a Newcastle fan, right, and if Rafa goes tomorrow and Solskjaer was to walk into the job, I'd be devastated. He has done nothing in his managerial career to justify to me that he's ready for even a Premier League job.
Yeah.
Forget a Champions League job. You know, for a club like Manchester United to appoint him in the short term, are you telling me there was no one available? Are you telling me Roy Keane couldn't have done it? Roy Keane has managed in England a lot more.
Can I ask you one question then? So you say that he hasn't done anything to justify, managing a club at this level and in this sort of situation. Zidane, Guardiola, Di Matteo are all managers who are just ex-players who have no real managerial credentials, but have gone on to manage their former clubs and done very, very good things.
No, there are exceptions to the rule, and in a lot of cases, managers like that do end up as a coach at the club first or an assistant manager, and they do spend years and years and years at a club and go straight out of the club into management. Solskjaer's been out of football for a long time in terms of the English game, and so what he remembers from his time as a Manchester United player, that football has changed so dramatically now.
You forget, it's not that too recently that he did spend time at the club. Yeah, he spent a few years managing in Norway and Cardiff as well, but I just think it strikes me as a fairly similar situation to that of Zidane, Guardiola, etc. And we all know what's happened when they took over there. So not for one moment saying that that's definitely going to be the same, but there could be a similar sort of new manager bounce with that.
How many players? I mean, yes, there are exceptions to the rule, but it's the exception that proves the rule. You've got Zidane and you've got Guardiola, Luis Enrique,
Di Matteo as well.
Di Matteo's done nothing.
Di Matteo,
no, but he did win.
He won the Champions League. But I take your point, right? But then you've got. I could just as easily come back to you and say Roy Keane failed in management. Thierry Henry is failing in management. Paul Ince failed miserably in management. And for every one that makes it, there are 20 that don't. And it's a very, very big gamble for United. What I will say is this season is not important.
That's right.
It is not important. United are not going to finish below 6th. They've got the players to finish in that top 6, really in the top 4.
Yeah.
That top 4 is not achievable anymore for me. I think they could go on any run they want. The teams in the top 4 are in such good form. Even the top 5. They are going to keep that run going. Arsenal have been brilliant to watch this season.
Yeah.
And I don't see them breaking down at any point.
I certainly wouldn't say that it's unachievable. It seems unlikely. I will give you that. One thing I say about Arsenal, you say they're so, about them being so good. I actually don't completely agree with that, because Arsenal have obviously lost 2 games they won against Burnley on the weekend, as we know. But the mere fact that Arsenal needed to come out and win so many games in the second half, sometimes late on, will tell you that they weren't as impressive as what some people were saying, that they would have been winning games by half time. It's only this weekend that they were actually ahead at half time. So for a team to have to rescue points all that often, I wouldn't necessarily say that they're not at risk of dropping any points. But again, I take the point on board. But you did raise a very good point there, which I was going to come on to, that it's almost like a free hit for Solskjaer. So in terms of, it can't really get all that much worse, because they certainly don't expect him to win the Champions League. We don't expect him to win the Champions League. If he did, it would be like a Di Matteo, it would be a miracle.
The Champions League's gone. Forget about the Champions League. You got PSG. You were out the moment that you drew PSG. It is my opinion, and we sat in September and we chatted about it. Mourinho's head was on the chopping block and never recovered ever since they lost 3-0 to Tottenham, or whatever the result was, 3-0. And ever since that day, I think the fans were divided. There was a negative atmosphere around the club, and it doesn't matter how good Mourinho has been in the past and whether or not he's out of touch nowadays with what good football is and what is effective football, because he certainly hasn't known for the past 5 years what to do. I think the blame for this season can lie very much at the owner's door.
Yeah.
Forget the signings for a second. Obviously, they needed more investment, but Mourinho has shown time and time again he has a 3-year cycle, and I think he gets that time to prepare for the club he's going at, and he thinks that this is the winning recipe, and he has a good season first season, and then it all goes wrong over the second and third season, especially in the third season. We've seen it at Chelsea twice, we've seen it at Real Madrid, we've seen it at Man United now, and so really it seems like this year, from the owner's point of view, has been a series of bad decisions. And it really has affected the football on the pitch and also the mood around the club off the pitch. And if they needed to get someone like Solskjaer in, who seems to have a personality, then so be it. But there's a lot of characters in that club who need to be A, or managed, or B, gotten rid of. And of course, I'm talking about people like Romelu Lukaku. I'm talking about Paul Pogba and Herrera, Matic. These people who've just dropped tools. And I don't know if he's the man to kick him into line.
Well, I certainly, like you mentioned, that the Champions League is gone, right? And you should write it off. I certainly wouldn't make us anywhere near favourites, but I certainly wouldn't write it off. You look at United over two games over Juventus. Yeah, of course, lucky. But if that was an aggregate game, then United would have gone through. Yes, it wasn't a knockout tie. We know that, okay? But use it as an example. I think that if Solskjaer gets the United side playing good football and he keeps confidence high going into the Champions League game, United fans will, they'll at least be positive about it. Do I think that we'll win the tie? No, I don't. But I certainly am not of the notion that the Champions League has gone. I'm certainly not of the notion that the top four has gone either. Yes, they are both very unlikely. I don't want people to get confused with me thinking that we're going to either beat PSG or definitely finish in the top four, because that's not what I'm saying. But I just think that we should be optimistic that things can change. It's only 17 games into the season.
Yeah, and Huddersfield can stay up, but they're not going to.
Again, I wouldn't necessarily.
Do you know what? I'm going to agree with Reese. Again, let us know what you think, guys, in terms of United's overall position and what they're going to do. I'm of the opinion that that United team will be exposed later down the line because they're just too inconsistent. Like Reese said, there's players there who need serious motivation. Why, I don't know, because they're professionals and they should be self-motivated. Prime example is Anthony Martial. We've criticised Anthony Martial time and time again, right? How many times did he attack the Cardiff right back on the weekend? It was about 86 times.
Yeah.
He didn't do that under Mourinho. Now, people will say, tactically, things are different with Solskjaer and, Mourinho. And to a degree, that's true. He's a professional. He's been playing football since he was 8 years old. You attack the fullback. It doesn't matter what tactics you have. You still implement the same game. You still go after the fullback. You still try and make things happen. And he didn't do it. And I get the impression a lot of these players are just in it for themselves. I really do. I don't think they're going to be consistent. I think they'll be very exposed as the season goes on.
That might prove to be the case, but the point you're making there is we've seen this a million times before. This happened to so many clubs. This isn't a new situation. Players, they stop playing, or they stop having confidence to play the way that they want to play. It's this whole Martial and the attitude situation. It's happened with Mourinho, like Reece said a number of times before. It's happened with other managers before. It's just.
I know it happens, but at the same time, it isn't good enough. It isn't good enough. It's not good enough.
But it's not just the United players. This is, God knows how many players have been like this, and under Mourinho as well. But we will see. But
can I just interject a second? So we're talking about the performance against Cardiff, and he's come into this club. And it must be the most difficult club in the world to come into. The fan base and the expectation more than anything. Couple that with the difficult group of players that he's inherited, from this job, Solskjaer. He was never going to say no. He was never going to say no to this job. So he's come in and he's going to try his best. But the performance against Cardiff, we'll all admit, was good. Yeah, and especially the third goal would never have been scored under Jose Mourinho. That goal could never ever have been scored under Jose Mourinho. But let's not forget that I think 2 weeks prior to this, they beat Fulham 4-1. And today they beat Cardiff 5-1. So I don't think we can sit here and we can go, everything's changing, everything's different. Cardiff and Fulham are both very, very poor teams. Fulham have got a horrendous defence. And they only kept their first clean sheet of the season this weekend. And for people to sit there and go, the tactics have changed, this has changed, that has changed, you've got to hold your breath on it. Because
you do.
Because it's all very well and good beating Cardiff, but a United fan shouldn't be sitting there and being impressed by their team beating Cardiff, because they should be doing it all day long.
So low now, though.
Right?
It's unreal.
Yeah, but the
test comes. The test comes when you go and play. Maybe Bournemouth is your first real test because they're a team in form, but
I think
a top six club or a West Ham or a Leicester, when these teams come to town, I think that's when you got to say, okay, if we're home to Tottenham, we need to dominate the game, because that's what we should be doing. That's what those group of players should be doing. But will that happen? I don't think so.
I totally agree with what you're saying there. The only stat that I really read into, so it wasn't they scored 5 goals for the first time since since Fergie was there. It wasn't so much the way that they played. The stat that really hit home with me was that they outran Cardiff by 5 kilometres. Now, some people that might not seem like much, but United haven't done that this season, and they've been quite publicly criticised for not outrunning sides or even getting close to sides. You look at teams like Liverpool, even Southampton. Now we talked about them last week on how their style has changed. The City, the top teams, all in the top 6, are constantly running more than their opponents. Okay, and United aren't doing that. So to see that they actually ran not just a little bit more, but 5 kilometres in total more over the course of the game is showing that at the moment that they're willing to really, really run and bust it up for the manager.
That goes back to the old saying, though, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard.
Yeah.
That's how it is. And those United players, you are right, they did down tools, and they should be embarrassed. I know Mourinho's not everybody's cup of tea, and I know he rubs people up the wrong way, and for whatever reason he didn't get the funds that he wanted, yet for some reason he got a new contract, which was a massive contradiction in itself. You got, okay, we're going to back you with a new contract. For some reason he didn't need one, but they gave him one anyway. And then when he wanted certain players, Harry Maguire, Toby Alderweireld, even Perisic is a prime example. Ed Woodward for some reason became chief scout and said, I don't rate these players, when really he's just an accountant. So I don't know where he's all of that, and that's the issue I have moving forward again is people talk about Pochettino and they say, oh, he's the answer. Well, Mourinho was the answer after Van Gaal, and Van Gaal was the answer after Moyes, and Moyes was the answer after Ferguson, and it's just a cycle of shit, and it's going to keep continuing until they get it together. You can't win titles without a good recruitment policy, and that means people like Ed Woodward need to butt out, and they need to have actual people in there, footballing people, that go, you know what, this is the guy we need, and that's how it should work.
Let me ask you guys a question, right? We're saying that in the short term, Solskjaer may not be that bad. Let's just put this out there that they have agreed the 7.2 million at the end of the season if he's working well.
Yeah.
But I think he could go unbeaten from now to the end of the season. I still wouldn't give him the job, because we've got to include a honeymoon period in there and all that sort of thing. However, let me ask you a question: for this season to be salvaged, what needs to happen in January?
Well, I was going to ask the two of you this. Do you think he should be given funds to spend?
No. The reason I think that is what needs to happen in January, they need to sign some good defenders. And if they don't sign those defenders, the bigger teams are going to exploit them. Mm-hmm. We've seen Lindelof is not good enough. We've seen Shaw is not sharp enough. Shaw is not sharp enough. Ashley Young's a joke. Eric Bailly is not sharp enough. Phil Jones, Smalling. My point is, you've got no defenders in there who are making a difference.
No, I agree.
They're getting turned inside out by every man and his dog, right? So, in January, let's say you won Toby Alderweireld and he's coming to the club. In the summer, that's a different meeting to what it is going to be now, because Jose Mourinho was sitting across from him. And you're going to play for Jose Mourinho, the Champions League winning manager Jose Mourinho, the famous, the special one. Mm-hmm. Now, you're sitting across to a man who's had a 50% win rate in the Norwegian League. It doesn't inspire as much confidence. Are you going to be able to attract the players in January?
Yes.
With a manager?
I'm going to beg to differ on that one.
I think that
you have
United will always attract the top players.
But are they going to attract the players who are going to be taking a step down? The people who are going to say to themselves, I'm playing in the Europa League next season because I'm not playing in the Champions League. At least it doesn't look like we are. They're not going to win the Champions League to qualify.
On how you sell the whole situation to the players.
But are you going to have faith that this man who you've never heard of, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer?
Well, this is the thing. But these things do remain to be seen. I firmly believe that the attractive prospect of United, it has and will be the same as it always has been. But I do think he should be given a little bit of funds. I'm not saying he should be given a war chest, but I'm certainly saying if they're going to put the faith in him to manage the club for now, they could at least give him a little bit of something to work with in January.
The general consensus from what I read is Solskjaer won't be given funds.
I've heard somebody that he will be given 50
million.
Well,
this is it. This is all speculation and rumours right now. And again, people comment on the Twitter page, the IG page when it's up. The YouTube account. Let us know what you think. Should Solskjaer be given any money? The general consensus is no, he won't. Right now, you have this kind of jambalaya. You have a bit of Moyes' team, and then you have a bit of Van Gaal's team, and then you've got a little bit of Mourinho's team, and you've still got some of Ferguson's team as well. So then to put in a little bit of Solskjaer's team, it's just this horrendous mix. I would rather They just use what they had, try and get 5th or 6th or 4th if they're lucky, depending on what's what. And then when the new manager comes in, give him all the money and just back him. Don't be a twat like Ed Woodward usually is and go, well, I don't like that player because I can't sell 81,000 shirts in Taiwan. No one gives a shit.
But that is exactly what they did to Mourinho. Yeah. Mourinho came in and they gave him a war chest. He spent so much money on all the wrong players. Now, you ask why didn't it work with Moyes? Moyes had money to spend. He spunked it all on Fellaini.
But in fairness, Moyes didn't have that much money compared to...
You got Van Gaal who came in and spent 60 odd on Di Maria. That didn't work. Ended up playing him central midfield in a 5 at the back formation. It didn't work for him. And then Mourinho came in, and again a similar thing happened. You had gigs for a few games as well, and none of these managers could deploy good football. You can't buy attacking players and tell them to park the bus. Mm-hmm. And Moyes was a defensive coach. We saw Van Gaal was happy to park the bus. We've seen that Mourinho was worse than the two of them put together for parking the bus. And you're sitting here, and I don't know if you said you wanted him or if you think that they're going to get him, but Pochettino at the end of the season. Now, but before I touch on that, if you're going to give Solskjaer money, he has to be your man long term.
Yeah, I agree totally. 100%.
There's no point in telling Solskjaer, we want you to sign players and they're going to cost you £50 million and then they'll be great for 6 months. And then someone else will come in and they won't be their cup of tea. And you'll either have to sell them for 30 million or you'll have to bench a player who's on 300 grand a week.
I'm exactly the same.
Now, with Pochettino, don't get me wrong, he's an absolutely fantastic manager. I think what he's done with Spurs is unbelievable, and there's people out there to say that they haven't made progress, and people take the piss out of Spurs because they haven't won trophies, and that's ridiculous. They play good football, and they've been fairly unfortunate that they haven't won a league title or a trophy here and there. They have been fairly unfortunate, and he would be a great manager. But do you want a man like Pochettino who is so good at making a defence and building from the back? Wouldn't you much rather go for a manager who's going to be able to look at your team and go, okay, we've got a shit defence and we've got a really good attack. In the short term, let's outscore the opposition. In the long term, let's invest in our defence.
That's what you would like.
So personally, I don't think Pochettino is the right man for that job. He's a great manager, but not the right man for that job.
Go on, Becky, you want some?
I was just going to say, I think we can all agree with United is very, very much up in the air at the moment, and we need time to unravel a little bit more to really see what's going to happen. But it will be very, very interesting. I would also like Pochettino as well. You mentioned Jose Enrique. Jose Enrique.
Luis Enrique.
Luis Enrique. I definitely don't want Jose Enrique.
Is that the Newcastle left back, was it? Yeah.
Yeah, it actually is.
We don't need any more ex-players managing United.
Pochettino would be my number one choice. Luis Enrique is an interesting idea, but I just think with United, we can talk all we want at the moment, but time will tell massively. All
right, so you want Poch. Who do you think will get it?
I actually think Poch...
Because Harry Redknapp isn't an answer here either, right?
No, I think Poch will get it.
You?
I think something's going on behind the scenes with Poch.
I'm of that opinion as well. Reece, let the people know. Who do you think who will get it? Who do you want to get it? Who do you think will get it?
There's been so much speculation surrounding Mauricio Pochettino. I would be massively surprised if he leaves Tottenham. I think he's got a group of players there who absolutely play for him. Why would he leave them to go to a club that's they're going to have a bigger financial availability for him, but he's leaving that group of players who are playing for him and they play better than Manchester United for a club where it's full of bad eggs. I think it's not the right decision for him. Of course, a club like Manchester United is hard to turn down, but he is on the cusp there. Can Pochettino spend 5 or whatever years he's been at Spurs building and leave without winning anything? I think your ego will be quite deflated if you spend that amount of time building a team and never won anything.
I think the case people are making for him going to United is that because he's so good at building teams, that if he was to come to United, I think that he's done so well with Southampton and then Spurs. If he could do a similar job with United to what he's done with Spurs, then he would take United to that next level again, in theory. That's what I think they believe is going to be the case. But I totally take the points on board. People saying about what he's got at Spurs is fantastic, and I totally agree that he would be taking a huge gamble himself in his career. But sometimes if that's his dream, or if he wants to manage a top club in world football, then it's that type of chance he's going to have to take.
The last thing I'll say about Pochettino is that if Manchester United come calling, you really only get that chance once in your career, and he may have to make a decision going if it's now or never. However, it's a poison chalice at the moment of the job. It's hard to take that job if you've got a reputation, because it's ruined Van Gaal, it ruined Mourinho, it ruined David Moyes. David Moyes was a well-respected manager before Manchester United, and it ruined him. And for me, there's probably only 2 managers I could confidently say that I'd be happy with. Zidane isn't one. Just because he's only done it at one club. And granted, he did an amazing job. He hasn't got a Ronaldo. He hasn't got a Bale at United, right? So who knows how he'd do?
He's got a small in though.
Yeah,
that is true.
Yeah. But for me, I think my first choice, Luis Enrique. But he's the Spain manager, and we know they don't take too kindly to their managers accepting jobs elsewhere. And I think probably if I had to pick one more, it'd be Allegri. His name literally means fast. So that is the man you want. You want someone with fast attacking football.
Yeah, no, those are both good shouts. I feel like we could talk about the whole United situation for quite some time, but I think we should probably draw a line.
We'll knock it on the head. Yeah.
What I will say, I think, Spooner, if you want to knock this one off, but City Palace.
Yeah. Now, we had a debate, me and you, before this came on, and I want to know people's opinions. Who scored a better goal this weekend? Was it Andros Townsend or Christian Eriksen?
I think if you think the answer is Christian Eriksen, you are high.
I must be high as fuck then, because I'm convinced it's Christian Eriksen.
Spooner is Eriksen, I'm Townsend. Please settle the debate.
You can't look beyond Andros Townsend.
I think Eriksen.
We all know Eriksen's a good player, right? And he was just outside the box, and he hit it, and he caught it well. The keeper was unsighted, and then you got Seamus Coleman, who really could have blocked it, but he was too scared of getting his body in the way in case it hit his arm. Andros Townsend, on the other hand, you're away to City, right? And one thing you should do, right, if the ball falls to you at 35 yards out, take the ball down, control possession, build an attack. Because City are so lethal on the counter, if you scuff the ball or whatever. He's gone for it, and he'll never hit a more perfect ball, and it's absolutely arrowed into the top corner, and it's beaten a world-class goalkeeper in Ederson.
And the acrobatic, just the mobility to get his body into that position, the ball is quite high as well, and he's not the tallest of blokes either, right? The fact that it's 30 yards out, and he's caught that so clean. You'd swear you haven't seen volleys like that since Paul Scholes struck one against Villa from about the same distance. That's honestly one of the best volleys I've ever seen in Premier League football. And Eriksen's is a very, very good goal, but it's nowhere near as far out. It's easier to hit, and I think he just sort of slices across it as well. If he's meant that, then very, 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 very good goal. But you don't hit the ball as good as you hit Townsend's.
It's also nice, by the way, to see Andros Townsend scoring goals like that, because when he was at Spurs, when he started his career, I always thought this guy he can hit a ball, and he's really, really talented. He's got a tremendous turn of pace, and for whatever reason, I mean, he was great for Newcastle, but then he's always had to switch clubs just as he started getting going. And I would like to see Andros Townsend really build a run of form, because he's a terrific footballer.
Yeah, he is a good player.
You mentioned he can really strike a ball, and the stats backed it up as well, because he scored 17 Premier League goals, and 10 of those have been outside the box. So he actually said in a previous interview that he's been working on trying to score his tap-ins a bit more, because those are the ones he seems to struggle with, which is crazy. But you just know that he scored a very good one against Burnley, and he rifled one in the top corner maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So you just know that when he's in that sort of area of the pitch and a ball comes to him, that you should take notice, because he likes to score those goals. There's
no free lunches in the Premier League anymore, bar maybe a couple of teams, Cardiff, Fulham, maybe Huddersfield, like players like you got Max Meyer, you got Wilfred Zaha, you got Milivojevic, you've got Andros Townsend. They're all very talented football players, so it's not a massive surprise to see them go to the empty hat, as I'm going to call it, and win. I'd like to get your opinion on that in a minute. Actually, we'll come to that now that you're a Manchester lad. Yeah, it's not a massive surprise for me to see them win. And as we said, City last week, and again, people let us know your thoughts on this. Defensively, I don't think they're that great. I mean, Kyle Walker, again, got exposed for 2 goals. He gave away the penalty. I think he should have stopped the first goal. I can't remember who scored the first one. I can't remember who scored it. I think Wan-Bissaka got the assist, but...
I can't remember who it was.
It eludes me off the top of my head. But anyway, the point I'm making is City have the their frailties. They're not invincible. John Stones is being played as a defensive midfielder. They still haven't sorted that issue. Frankie de Jong is a name that keeps coming up for Ajax. Again, very good football player. He's linked with PSG, Barcelona, Man City. It seems like he will go to one of them before he goes to Man City. They have issues that they still need to address that I still don't think are sorted.
Yeah, and the one thing I'll say that they so hugely missed on the weekend, and we know that they have their defensive issues, and we've spoken about them quite a bit. The main thing that they have, which is their trump card in sort of covering up those defensive issues, is Fernandinho. And he has been, you could make a case that he's actually been one of their best players this season, and he wasn't available. I think he was injured for the game of the weekend, and you could see the difference that without him on the pitch, Palace could just get at them so much easier than what it was if he was on the pitch. Now, City, and they kind of made a mockery of my start last week, because I said to you that in the 21 games they'd won this season, they'd scored first, and nobody can peg them back. And in the 5 that they hadn't won, the other team has scored first. As soon as I reel off that stat, the next week it just makes so City scored first. You expect them to have a comfy win, and then out of nowhere, Palace score 3 goals. So I certainly wouldn't say it was a result that didn't surprise me, because it really fucking surprised me, especially how long City's home run has lasted. But yeah, what a result.
I want to say, but before I say anything about Pep Guardiola, I have so much admiration for what he does at his football clubs. I think, and I don't mean to exaggerate it, but overstate it, but I think that his football he plays is the best football that any manager has ever played. I think when he's gone to Barcelona and to Man City, the style of football he implements is so exciting to watch. I think it's the best ever. I'm not saying it's the most effective ever, and
it's just, I guess.
Did you mean he's the best at attacking football?
Best to watch ever.
Most entertaining,
right? Now, with Man City, I think they have a problem. Touching on what you said about Fernandinho, wherever Pep has gone, he's had a Fernandinho.
Busquets,
whether it's been Busquets or Xabi Alonso, he's had someone. He wasn't there, and they did struggle. But all season for me, they've been so. You said it last week on the podcast. They've been so frail in defence. They don't. It's almost like they don't feel they need to defend. They've got Kyle Walker, who marauders up the wing, and don't get me wrong, he's terrific going forward. But you press Kyle Walker. He showed last year in the FA Cup against Wigan. You press Kyle Walker, and he's got a mistake in him. And the challenge he made to give away the penalty in this game is indicative of that. It's just boggles the mind what he was doing, what he was thinking, just absolutely clattering into someone in the box. And that goes for John Stones. I think that goes for Otamendi. I don't think Otamendi's the most solid centre-half in the world.
Sure. If you take pace away from Kyle Walker, what are his qualities?
Can cross the ball. But I mean, that's it. I mean, he loves to go forward. His give and goes he gives in the attacking third are great, but like I said, not that great defending.
No.
That's England struggled with that because they put him at centre-half. He'd be the last person I put at centre-half. Granted, they haven't got a left-back, but if I'm honest, they looked just as shaky in defence with Mendy at left-back.
I think, going back to that, I think Mendy and Ederson are the only world-class players in the back line. That's it. Fabian Delph is a good squad player, but I think they're heavily reliant on him because of Mendy's injury problems. I would put Laporte as being close to world-class, but not quite there yet. I still think he's got a few things to do.
Young defender syndrome, but he will learn. He's got the makings. He's got the makings of a really, really good defender, Laporte. But again, he's got a lot to learn. And if they had Vincent Kompany right next to him, whilst Vincent Kompany's over the hill, he's got a lot of experience to teach Laporte. Give Laporte any of the qualities the Kompany's had over the years, and you've got a really, really good defender there. But like I said, young defender syndrome, not the finished article. Is he someone you want to be taking into a semi-final against Barcelona? Probably not.
How different do you think it would be if City signed Van Dijk and Liverpool didn't have Van Dijk?
I don't think that you can. When they signed him, I laughed. I thought 85 million for someone who's done well at Southampton. Are you actually having a laugh? But I cannot fault him. He has not put a foot wrong since he went to Liverpool. He is so calm, and he's a unit, and he commands everywhere. I see him shouting at Lovren and shouting at his keeper. he is a leader. And Liverpool needed a leader, especially when Jordan Henderson's been your captain for 2 years. You are crying out for a leader.
I think that takes us nicely into the Liverpool game, actually, with mentioning Van Dijk. The moment that I sort of looked at him, I thought, was the Friday game where he just kept pace with Adama Traore. But when you thought that they would, we already know that he's good in the air. We know that he's a leader. We know he can score goals. We know that he's strong. But Traore is rapid, and he just couldn't get away from him. And I just thought, what hope do more strikers have against him? Because you can't really outpace him. You're not going to beat him in the air. He's stronger than you. He's organised. He doesn't, like you say, he doesn't really seem to have a mistake in him at the moment. And I kind of hope I jinx him. I really do. really, really do. But you have to give the guy enormous credit. He is a massive reason why they're doing so well.
Well, I'll say this, though. What happens if he breaks his leg?
Fuck.
What happens? Because they've had a great season so far, and they're all playing with confidence, but Van Dijk breaks his leg or gets a calf injury or whatever, and he's out for 6 weeks. Are they just going to go back to the old Liverpool? Are they learning from Van Dijk?
Well, you look at who they got to come in. You got, was it like a Matip?
Matip.
Or is Klavan even there anymore?
Yeah, Klavan's there, but he's not going to get a look in ahead of Van Dijk.
Yeah. But, Liverpool, they've discovered them. They've landed at Christmas #1 now. They're the only team in the last 10 years. Okay, they're the only team that have been top of Christmas and have not gone on to win the league, and that's happened twice. So in the last 10 years, it's Liverpool have been there twice, and they haven't gone on to win the league on either occasion. But every other team that's been top of Christmas has. So history will tell you that they're the only team that struggles to maintain that. But they look a real force at the moment. Like you say, if Van Dijk breaks his leg, what happens? I don't know. If someone like Matip comes in, can it be as good? Can it be as effective? Or will they start to open up at the back? But at the moment, he hasn't broken his leg, and he's very much a massive, massive part of that defence. And you look at the numbers, I think they've only conceded, 7 goals this season.
That's it.
That's incredible. And they've got 48 points, only bettered by Chelsea having 49 in 2005 and City having 52 at this stage last year.
It's incredible.
So the stats at the moment are telling you that they aren't just doing well, they're right up there this season so far, in amongst any other season in terms of points scored, goals conceded. So he's a massive part of that at the moment, Van Dijk.
Yeah, let us know what you think, guys. What we'll do, we'll go to a brief interval very quickly. We'll put my hats up, we'll put Vecchi's up, we'll put Reese's up, and we'll put the VMB ones on. So make sure you follow us online, interact with us, let us know what you think. We'll be back after this short interval, and we will have more Liverpool and plenty more action. Stay tuned. Alright people, we're back. So Liverpool, we want to have a quick chat about them because they are top of the league, and a lot of people now feel like the time is right to invest in a trophy cabinet and go to IKEA and build it for Liverpool fans, because it looks like they could be favourites. Now, I wanted to ask you two a question because I think it's quite an important question to ask. That Liverpool front three, are they better than the front three Brendan Rodgers had? So they had Salah, Sterling and Suarez, I believe it was.
It was Sterling, Sturridge and Suarez.
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah, I beg your pardon, sorry, yeah. And then Salah, Mane and Firmino. So who do you think's better out of the two?
I personally prefer the first one, because in the first one, we've got to remember as well, you had Coutinho behind them, and this one they've got Shaqiri behind them, and it's just not. I think Mane's a great player, Salah's a great player, and Firmino's a great player, but the only real talisman there is Salah. Whereas when you had Sterling, Sturridge and Suarez, you had Suarez, who was on the best form of his career, maybe even the best form of a striker of a Premier League ever that season. He was unbelievable. And he also had Sturridge right next to him, who was on just as good form. And then they had Sterling, who was coming through, and he was only going to get better. Coutinho was getting to that point where he was world class. Whereas now, you wouldn't say that Mane's world class. You wouldn't say that Firmino's world class. And you wouldn't say that Shaqiri was world class. So.
No, what I would say to that is, I do, first of all, I do agree that Sturridge, Sterling and Suarez edged it for me. But when you said that he was on possibly the best form ever in the Premier League, we forget that Salah had the best season you can ever have in the Premier League. He bettered anyone before him. But I do agree that as a front three, I think that if the Liverpool side of now had Suarez, Sterling and Sturridge in his prime at that moment, then I think that they would be just as good, if not better. It's also worth noting as well just how good that result was for Liverpool against Wolves, because Wolves have done exceptionally well against top six opposition. The only side in the top six to beat them has been Spurs, and we could probably make a case to say that they were very lucky as well, because they were 3-0 up and Wolves came back to 3-2 and looked like they were going to equalise, if not possibly win it. Arsenal are very lucky to get a draw. City came back late to get a draw. Wolves had a good draw against United at Old Trafford as well. So it was supposed to be a very, very tough game for Liverpool. And yes, they had their moments where they give the ball away far too much for me at the back. I don't know if you saw that. The Wolves just, unlike them, didn't really punish them. But overall, I thought it was a very, very good result for them. And to answer your question, Spooner, are they favourites? I still wouldn't say so, because evidence will always suggest and allude to the fact that they do bottle it.
There's going to be some Liverpool fans.
I was going to say the same thing. They've got into the position a few times, and they just don't seem to have had the mental strength to see it through. I mean, but this season they're not playing Jordan Henderson, and I think he's a major contributor of bottling it. I think that they've not got that weakness in defence, which has plagued them so much. The moment that their team stops scoring goals in the past, well, they're conceding goals, and they've generally had to outscore to win matches. Yeah. This season, it's a completely different story. They've been good attackingly. They haven't been as good as they've been in the past, but they've only conceded 7 goals, and that's outstanding by Christmas. They're unbeaten, but when they get beaten, because I don't think they'll go unbeaten. When they get beaten, how do they bounce back? We've seen that City can bounce back, and some last season. For me, I'm still going City. I know Liverpool are at the top and there's a few points difference, but for me, City will still win it, because I think when Liverpool get rocked, I don't think they'll come back from it. And I'm also thinking that they're so good defensively. I honestly think City will go out in the last 16 or the quarterfinals of the Champions League, and at that point, Liverpool will have more games to play, because I'm backing Liverpool to go a bit further in the Champions League.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, and you also said, Spoon, that when I mentioned the term bottlers, that a lot of Liverpool fans will be happy with that. And what I will say to that as well is that I'm not questioning for one moment the quality of that Liverpool side at the moment. The team is good enough to win the league, okay?
Just prove us wrong.
But mentality is everything, yeah? And once you've won the league, the fact that you know that you can win the league is huge. And at the moment, there's no. I don't think there's any Premier League winners in that team.
They're a team of losers. That's what they are.
They're a team of Neelys, right? Similar with Spurs as well, right? They're a team of Neely winners. I'm not questioning them for one single moment, any of their ability. Some of those players are bordering world class, but it's not often that when a team is this good, that the team chasing them is also as good as City are. And City have done it before. They're a team of winners, and
their manager's a loser as well.
Yeah.
Their manager's a loser as well, and he's up against his
and that's just his personality.
I think when it comes down to it, I think when it comes up to it, and you've got Guardiola breathing down Klopp's neck, I'm almost certain Klopp will start to think, oh no, it's going to happen again.
And yeah, Klopp's record in finals, in cups, and also just coming down to crunch time in big competitions isn't great. But we've seen it many times. Fergie has hunted down managers from behind. In seasons gone by. So I definitely think for Liverpool fans listening and possibly not really liking what I'm saying at the moment, I definitely think that they're good enough. Their squad is good enough, their team is good enough, and they're in a fantastic position at the moment. But like Reece pointed out, we have to see how they respond when a result doesn't go that way, which I do think it inevitably will. And
they have to keep some of their key players, particularly Van Dijk, fit.
Yeah. Question, Spoon. You're giving us, me and Reece, a few questionable looks doing what we're saying here. So do you think it's their year? Is that
I think it's their year, yeah. I genuinely think it's their year. And I'm not a Liverpool fan, as people know, and I would be very uncomfortable with them winning that and them gloating for the next 45 years about how they won the title. But I think the stars are starting to align. And look, Man City aren't as good as people think they are. Like Reece said, I think they'll get knocked out early doors in the Champions League. But if Liverpool keep Van Dijk fit, I think they're going to go far. I think they will
go far.
I think they'll do
You
it.
say you think the stars are aligning. The stars aligned when Rodgers was there.
Not quite like this, though. I don't think it's quite like this.
When they were 3-0 up against Palace in that season, the Stars, they basically had a hand on the title, and they managed to do only what Liverpool could do and not win the title.
Bull, wasn't it?
Yeah, Christian Bull, right.
No, I really don't.
There's a massive hoodoo for them to get over here, especially for people like James Milner, people like Jordan Henderson, the people who were there the last time.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's and when
Sturridge is still there.
After that season, people question, are they ever going to get into that position without Gerrard? Well, they have, and they've got Fabinho and Keita, two wonderful signings who are only going to get better. And like we said, if they can stay fit, there's no reason why they can't. But when it comes to it, and Guardiola's right up alongside Klopp, which one would blink first? I think that person would be Klopp. However, I think it seems obvious to say it, but I think more than a season I can think of for the last few seasons, it will come down to that one meeting between Liverpool and Manchester City at the Etihad. And
that's what, early January, is it?
I don't know when it is, but
I think it's
early January.
whoever
Yeah,
wins
it's
that
early
game
January.
wins the title for me.
Yeah.
But they're not going to win the title, right? But Tottenham,
We might look back at this video very differently in 6 months.
Tottenham aren't going to win the title, right? We were all agreed. Tottenham aren't going to win the title
Probably
this
not.
season.
No, I
right?
would have thought so. No.
But they're up there as well,
Mm.
right? And this is the first time since 1985 that 3 teams have passed the 40 points mark in by Christmas, which implies it is the most competitive season yet.
Mm-hmm.
So we can't count Spurs out, but they are going to have a huge say in what happens at the top of that.
The problem is for Spurs is that for how good they are, and you probably look at many a season gone by where they would probably be top, Spurs. But then it's not just one team that's ahead of them, it's 2 teams and 2 exceptional teams that are ahead of them. So whilst you wouldn't rule Spurs out, and I'm sure we'll come on to them soon, and we've said that how good of a job that Poch is doing and how they just go about their business and they just keep ticking over. But I personally can't see Spurs win the title. But like Reece said, they're a very, very good side, and they could be a team that takes points off certain teams, which will have a say in that. But I think it would be worth moving on to one team that's won more titles than Liverpool. So Leicester versus Chelsea.
Oh man, the Liverpool fans are going to come for you. They are going to come for you.
Just saying.
No, that's valid. Look, it's very valid. So yeah.
Another great result.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I find it strange that Claude Puel seems to be under pressure in his job. I mean, what are Leicester fans really expecting? Where's the bar for Leicester fans now? Because ultimately, they're not going to be relegated. They'll probably have a mid-table finish. They've got some excellent players. You know, you look from back to front, we said before, you've got Schmeichel, you've got Vardy, you've got James Maddison, one of the best young players, probably in the world, in fairness. Then you've got good players like Maguire, Johnny Evans. I don't know what they're expecting.
I mean, first of all, I don't think I've said this before about Harry Maguire, but I think him and Johnny Evans is a centre half partnership. You're not aiming to do anything there. You're mid-table.
Yeah.
That's Leicester won the league, right? And that it actually happened, right? We have to remember that is something that actually did happen. And knowing a couple of Leicester fans, I think that the general idea that they have is that was a dream. That was all part of a dream, and now they kind of had to wake up.
Mm-hmm.
They were never going to be able to repeat it with people like Wes Morgan and Robert Huth, Danny Simpson, the good players, but they were never going to get there, and they had to invest. I don't think they did invest. I mean, they kind of had no choice but to sell their key players. I think 30 million for Kante was daylight robbery, considering some of the people who've gone for more, like Morata, who went for double. Fred, for example. So I think they were a bit naive with that, selling their key player Kante, selling Mahrez, and not really investing in any quality players. I think you like Maddison, but again,
I love Maddison.
he's not a finished article. He's not someone who can come in and run the show like Mahrez could. And Jamie Vardy, as much as he turns up in the big games, and he's fairly consistent against the lower league teams as well. He's getting on now, and when it gets to that point where he loses that yard of pace, they don't really seem to have the money to invest in another big striker. So I think if you're a Leicester fan, you've just got to take the days like on the weekend where they beat Chelsea 1-0 away from home, and just say what happened before was great, and let's all remember it, because it's not going to happen again.
Yeah, I think the big problem for Leicester fans in general is that, like Reece said, they won the league. I still don't quite know how. I still forget sometimes that it happened, and it comes back to me. I think, dear fucking God, they actually did win the league. And I think that completely messed the expectations up of that club altogether, because they've achieved that before that moment, right? You've got to remember where they were the season before. Until that unthinkable happened, if they hadn't won the league, and they just got sort of climbed off from the bottom, and then they moved up, they'd just be a mid-table side, and these sort of results would just be commonplace. They would just be what Leicester fans would expect, and this would just be a really good result. You say about Claude Puel, you don't know why he's under pressure and things like that. The Leicester managers come under pressure because the expectations of what they achieved before is just completely skewed everything. That, all right, they don't maybe expect them to win the league now, but they do. I reckon that the owners and the fans do expect to see Leicester above 10th and maybe in the top 8, possibly even pushing in the top 6. But you got to think, before this game of the weekend, I think they'd only won 2 of the last 10 games, Leicester. So they were on a very, very bad run of form, which I think is maybe the reason why some question marks were coming over Claude Puel. I'm not his biggest fan, to be honest with you, Puel's in general, but I think that's the reason why that he was under a little bit of pressure, but it's certainly been relieved a little bit.
Also, I think if you told a Leicester fan when they were bottom of the league with Nigel Pearson in charge, with basically the same squad of players they won the league with the next season, if you told them, okay, in 3 years' time, forget winning the title and all that, in 3 years' time you're going to be considered a solid mid-table team, they'd take it. Of course they'd take it.
Yeah.
I don't think Pavarotti's getting any repeat business. But I think they'll be all right. They'll be all right, Leicester, and they'll be all right for years to come.
Yeah.
All right?
True. Yeah, no.
I enjoyed that.
Going back to the Leicester-Chelsea game, again, the reason I don't bet is because of games like this. I say this every week. I refuse to bet anymore because I just do not know who's going to show up. That Chelsea team under Sarri, do you reckon they can win the title?
No.
You don't think they got in them? No.
Rudiger said it himself. Did you see his after-match interview?
Yeah.
Rudiger, very honest, possibly too honest. He basically said, didn't he, that if they can't, with all due respect, if they can't beat teams like Leicester, then how on earth can they be considered title contenders?
Yeah, but they beat Man City, so I mean, there's a bit inconsistent there. The thing with Chelsea is that we spoke at the start of the season about Sarri coming in and playing Sarri ball, I think they refer to, isn't it? And Jorginho being this heart. I mean, at Napoli they had Alan playing the Kante role, and it worked for them. I will still forever. I'm not a fan of seeing Kante marauding into the box. I confidently, I reckon you could stick him in goal. He'd be the best player on the pitch, right? But honestly, I look at Jorginho sometimes and I think you're really, really good at looking good, but I don't actually see him do much when he's playing.
We've had this conversation so many times, haven't we, about them two in the opposite places.
And I think can you ever win a title when to win a title, right? You've got to go 38 games, and you can't really have any either passengers, or you can't have people maybe playing out of position really all season. I think as good as Kante is, they cannot win a title if they're not utilising everyone's strengths. And I think for Hazard to be playing as a central striker and Kante to be playing almost like a cam, and Azpilicueta to have played centre half, left back, and right back over the last few seasons, I don't think it's conducive to a title challenge.
Yeah, I agree. And to think that you've arguably, and I know Reece would definitely say this, but to think that you've got Kante, who is potentially the best holding/defensive midfield player in world football, probably bar none, and you're not playing him in that position, it blows my mind. It does blow my mind. And then you've got the whole striker issue where you've got Morata. Less said about him, the better. Reece, I still think you believe he's going to get how many goals?
How many is he on now? He must be on at least 8 or 9 in all competitions.
I'd say he probably is, yeah. I haven't got the exact.
That's
that's if he doesn't go in January,
that's
right?
That's halfway there.
Because there's apparently a swap.
He's probably going to Milan, right? I've heard he'd be on his way there, right?
And you've got Mr. Gorgeous, Olivier Giroud, who, he's decent, but then there's talks of them maybe bringing Callum Wilson into the club.
Oh, I saw that.
If they sign Higuain, then that could be very, very good. But if they're bringing in someone like Callum Wilson, I mean that's just not the type of striker someone like Chelsea. You've had your Hasselbanks, your Zolas, your Drogbas, your Diego Costas. You don't need Callum Wilson.
The Chelsea of former years would have gone out now and bought a Lewandowski, like a top striker.
Well, they bought Shevchenko. It didn't work out, but.
I'm not putting Higuain into that category, right? The reason being is he's just too old. He's not a long-term signing. I don't know what they want long-term. There's a general agreement that it's when and not if Hazard will be leaving. And so what's their plan long term? I mean, personally, I'd be looking at Icardi, not Higuain.
Yeah, I like Icardi.
Very similar players.
He's a good player.
You also look at players like Aubameyang. You know, why they maybe going for someone like that?
I mean, Aubameyang is certainly not a realistic signing for them, considered because Arsenal.
I mean before, yeah,
of course. I liked Michy Batshuayi. He knew where the goal was. I mean, Morata, like looking at Morata this season, I thought last season didn't have a really good season. He might hit form this season, especially if, you know, Hazard always has a good season when the new manager comes in. I'd probably be laying him on a plate for Morata. I've never seen a player as lazy and as rubbish with his back to goal as Alvaro Morata. You give the ball to him with his back to goal and he just falls over. I've never seen anything like it. He's like a house of cards. Honestly, I'm sure I watched the Southampton game this season or something like that. I think Cedric Suarez behind him, and Cedric Suarez looks like a child. He's tiny, and Morata went down as if he'd been hit by a London bus, and I just knew then, I was like, you just can't play with him up front. You just cannot, not unless you're absolutely dominating games.
It annoys me, he's got half a pot of VO5 hair gel in his fringe as well. It does completely ruins me. Maybe that's part of the problem. But
he's a bit like Simon from the In-Betweeners, isn't he? That's how he's like.
Yeah.
He plays like him as well because he's fucking awful at times. Yeah. We'll leave Chelsea behind. We'll go quickly onto the Arsenal game. The Arsenal game there's not an awful lot to analyse. I think we all kind of expected them to win, which is fine. What I wanted to talk about more than the game itself was an individual, and that individual is Mesut. Now, he's come under a lot of criticism from man that's on 350k a week. It seems as though Emery is very half-arsed on him. I can live without him type of attitude. Do you think Arsenal can live without him?
Well, first of all, if Emery's been half-arsed with Ozil, I mean, it's a mutual kind of thing, because Mesut Ozil has been half-arsed with Arsenal and Germany, to be fair, in the summer for a long time, and he's been coasting too much. And if he wants to boot him to the bench, then so be it, because I've watched Arsenal this season and it doesn't seem that they need Ozil. Don't get me wrong, he had a very, very good game against Burnley on the weekend, but he won't have a good game now for 6 or 7 games. He won't, and it's because he's lazy. And Arsenal now under Emery, I love the football they're playing. It's fast, it's energetic, and I just don't think Ozil works in that system. I've long been critical of Ozil because I've always liked workers.
Yeah, and I think one thing that is worth considering there, though, is that we mentioned, I think it was last week, about luxury players with a bit of talent, a bit of flair that can create things that are nothing. Ozil, when he wants to be, worth noting, is one of those players. Okay, now, teams that go on to win titles and trophies, I usually have a manager who is very, very good at keeping the squad happy and everyone happy and sort of including everybody. Now, I think if Arsenal want to potentially either get comfortably into the top 4 or have a chance of winning the trophy, that he will have a part to play, someone like Ozil, and they possibly would need him in certain games to unlock defences. Like I say, when teams put a 10 men behind the ball, you're going to look at someone like Ozil more than something like Iwobi, or maybe Ozil over something like Mkhitaryan. So I've been critical of him as well in past seasons. He did play well this weekend, and if Emery can get a tune out of him, then I think that he could be a big asset to them. Would he play every week? No. Should he? Probably not. But I do think that it may be worth Emery's time just trying to get him on side and just get in some game time out of him, because he is a quality player.
And like you said, he's a luxury player. You swap Ozil out and put me in instead, and Aubameyang would still score 30 goals a season. He is that good. He would find the chance. And they don't need someone as good as Ozil passing the ball, because Aubameyang's always in the right place at the right time. And he's the luxury player that they need. They got Iwobi coming in. If you're getting goals and assists with Iwobi, then you're doing something right. Because I honestly believe Iwobi is surplus to requirements at Arsenal.
Yeah. You mentioned Aubameyang as well. He got his 11th and 12th league goal this season, which puts him top of the goal scoring charts currently. Do you think that's the way it'll stay? Do you think people, because I know Kane's on, I think, 11 now as well. Salah's on 11.
Interesting.
Only one behind.
Where's Aguero in all this?
Well, he was right up there. I think he's on about 9, but he hasn't played a lot of games recently, is he? But who's your money on for Golden Boot this
The
season.
thing is, with Aubameyang, he's so consistent. He just seems to score every game. But people like
So
Harry
does
Kane,
Kane, though.
people like Harry Kane have got a hat-trick in him. Somewhere along the line, he's going to score 3 or 4 in one match. And then it catapults him always.
Kane and Salah, though, both seem to be pretty consistent at the moment as well. It's hard. It's going to be hard to split them. I like a 3 or 4 way sort of race for a Golden Boot. Makes it interesting.
It's not been a race like that for many years. I remember a season where I think Thierry Henry, Van Nistelrooy and Shearer were all battling for that, and they were all on 30, 35 goals, and this season I think it's going to come down to something like that, because there's a lot of teams scoring a lot of goals.
Yeah, I think that all of them at the top are a little bit off the pace of Salah last season, which is no shame in that really, but yeah, you go back to those days, Van Nistelrooy, Henry, Shearer, and then there was a phase where I think it was Rooney and Drogba and someone else was doing it as well, but yeah, it's going to be really exciting at the moment. Aubameyang has actually scored 22 goals in his 31 games for Arsenal. Thierry Henry only scored 17 in his first 31 for Arsenal, so nobody has scored more in that amount of opening games for Arsenal, so he's certainly playing excellently at the moment.
Terrific player.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't think he'll finish top goal scorer. I think he'll be close. I'm sure somebody predicted that in our little league that we had recently. It might have been, was it you that said Aubameyang will finish top goal scorer? You might have said Salah.
I said he was one of the players who was going to get more than 20 goals.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Kane. That's my shout. So that leads us nicely into our next section. Excellent segue by me again. So yeah, Spurs. Now I felt like Spurs would go and beat Everton, but I didn't think they'd beat them as convincingly as they did. Does that tell you that Spurs are excellent, or Everton just aren't as good as we think they are? Take the lead, Reece.
I think that's an interesting question. I've looked at Everton this season, and they're playing better football than I remember them playing for a long time. I've long been a fan of Marco Silva. When he was at Watford, I thought that the football he played was great, and I thought he was really unfortunate to get the boot there. And when he came to Everton, I thought, yeah, he'd put that style of play in. The signing of Richarlison for 50 million was a strange one, to say the least.
He's done well.
But you know what? I think he's been terrific.
He's got 8 Premier League goals.
He's got pace, and he puts himself about, and he's got a worker's attitude. And those are 3 things, when you put them together, mean that he's going to work well. And Gylfi Sigurdsson seems to have recaptured, the form where we know how good he is. Walcott is not a Premier League player for me.
I have my doubts.
I watched Theo Walcott sometimes. He got the goal against Tottenham, but I don't think he's up to much.
You had a laugh, didn't you, in the Spurs Everton game? I know that the game was gone, right? But in 4 or 5 minutes towards the end, do you know they brought on? Do you see it?
Saw bits of it.
Cenk.
Oh, my boy.
Your boy Cenk.
Cenky.
So you're trying to find any sort of way to get back into the game. You bring on
Jesus
Cenk
Christ.
Right? But I think it's worth noting at the moment that had Everton have won yesterday, they've gone 7th. They lost, they're now 12th.
Yeah,
so the way that sort of part of the league is at the moment is very congested.
Yeah.
So it might not be worth reading too much into that at the moment until a couple of months' time, because you got like your Watfords, your West Hams, your Leicesters, Everton, all sort of around that area where one win for one team and a loss for another just completely changes that 5 or 6.
Yeah.
And so you can be 7th one week, 12th the next. So Everton are doing okay this season. I don't think he's massively underachieving, but I do think they will finish top 8, Everton.
And also a point on that game, Pickford's mistake. Honestly, I mean this genuinely as a Newcastle fan. Couldn't have happened to a nicer bloke. Really couldn't have. Jordan Pickford, I've been saying for a long time, I think he's rated higher than he actually is.
Yeah, he is.
I don't think he...
But...
that mistake, it's just...
He did one against Liverpool as well, a massive error. So he has got a mistake in him, but I don't think any of the other 5 goals he really could have done much about.
Does Pickford have that? What's the word I'm looking for, or the phrase? When you come to buy a player, you buy a player, I get my words out, you buy a player like Pickford, he'll generally have what we call an English tax, because he's English and he's got a media hype. Yeah. That's an extra 25 million on top. His save against Colombia in the World Cup was one of the greatest saves I've ever seen. I've never seen a save like that. Like, that was the only thing he was missing was the S on his chest and a cape, because he fucking flew through the sky. Like, anybody who hasn't seen, you must have seen that save. If you haven't, go on YouTube and look at it, because it's probably one of the greatest saves you'll ever see. For a guy who's not that tall, to get up as high as he did, it was like Jesus himself lifted him up and just said, here you go, save this. It was unreal. But the mistakes he has in him gives me doubts that he could ever go to a top club. Just to very quickly touch upon that. Do you think he could ever play at a top club?
No. But what I will say just very quickly before we come to Reece is that he is very, very young still, and goalkeepers do tend to get a lot better with age. So I don't think he will ever play for a top 6 club or even a European club of that size. But there is time is on his side.
I don't think he's got the attitude to. I think he's got. First of all, I think the most important thing, I don't think he's got the stature to be a top goalkeeper. When have you ever saw a goalkeeper with his stature go on and be really successful? I mean, you think of your Casillas, maybe is roughly the same. You don't see many.
Shea Given.
Yeah, you don't see many go to the very top level. I mean, you can't even say Shea Given in that because he never got to the top level. Also, he has got a mistake in him, and I don't think he's got the right attitude to be at a top club. You look at his challenge on Dele Alli, and that was obviously out of frustration. It was obviously out of frustration.
Very nasty.
Mm-hmm.
And to do that, how the referees missed it, and it's just a disgraceful refereeing, for him not to say it. There has been some questionable refereeing this season. Insert VAR statement here, because it was terrible.
We'll quickly touch upon Spurs before we go to another brief interval, so you can have our IG at, and then we'll go over the other fixtures. And we got a few questions that people have lined up for us, so we'll go over that too. Poch and Spurs, realistically, where do you see them finishing? Pick a number between 1 and 4, because they ain't coming outside the top 4.
Third.
Yeah. I'm gonna go. I like going against you guys today, so I'm gonna say second. I think Man City might just fall. The Guardiola magic might not work this season.
I can't see it.
I see your point, but City are not finishing below second this year. And to be honest with you, I still think they'll win the title by 5 or 6 points. I said that at the start of the season.
I still think they win the title as well.
I think City have got a huge run in them, and I think they can bounce back. Whereas Liverpool, I think it might take one of their players might get injured, or they might lose a game, and I don't see that they could bounce back.
Don't let Spurs hustle, at Spoon, and put you under some sort of illusion that they're going to go on this incredible run and displace City, because Spurs have also got a poor run of form in them as well. And luckily this season so far, when they've been playing badly, they have been getting results. But I see also a bad run in Spurs possibly as well.
I beg to differ.
What's up with you, mate? Does Mansion Betting sponsor this podcast or something?
If they do want to sponsor it, then please email me and we will happily take on any type of sponsorship. But no, I don't know. I think this Premier League season is going to be a little different to seasons gone by. I don't think Man City are going to have it all their own way. They've shown their frailties. Pep now, there are question marks over him as a coach, which we can come to another time. We won't necessarily go over in too much depth. I know he's Reece's favourite, and Reece is right. He does produce an excellent attacking football, but to climb that mountain a second time is very difficult. Bear in mind, he hasn't won a Champions League either since he was with Barca, so it's interesting.
Can we just very quickly give a massive shout out to Son as well?
Most underrated player in the Premier League by a mile.
Because we talked about Kane
by a mile
and Eriksen, but I think he probably deserves the biggest praise out of all of them in that game. 2 goals and an assist.
Yeah, incredible.
Just goes completely under the radar, and I just think that he deserves a lot more praise than what he gets.
Yeah, definitely one of the most underrated players in the whole world. Son, I think when he's on his day, he can strike a ball, he can take a man on. He must just be an absolute joy, because considering that when all the Spurs players are fit, sometimes he can't even start. To bring a player of that quality off the bench is just remarkable. Really good player.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, cool. What we'll do, we'll go to a brief interval again very quickly, guys, and get on our IG at, get on our Twitter at. Reece, what is your IG at, by the way? Travel Reece, is it, or?
Yes, I've got a travel account. So.
Oi. If you want really good pictures of Butlins, then Reece has about 85 of them, so they're terrific. No, I'm only joking. Reece is well versed in culture and travel. So if you want to go on I think it's a travel with Reece, is it?
Traveling with Reece, is it?
Yeah, and also having lived in Manchester for a while now, it is nice to see a team in red playing so well again, being so close to Liverpool. Yeah. So yeah, whatever.
Yeah, cool. So we'll have them up now. We'll be back just after this. We'll go over the remaining fixtures, and we got a couple of questions that people have sent in. So yeah, we'll be back now in 4 or 5 seconds. Alright, we're back. So, moving forward then, lads. In terms of the fixture list, we've kind of been over the top 6. We'll go over a few bits and pieces in relation to the other games. We'll skim by them because I say we've got some questions people have sent in. To touch upon your team, Reece, Newcastle, Fulham, we'll give it a little bit of scope. Were you happy with the result against Fulham?
No, next question.
Alright, that's that done.
It was just a very bland game of football. I think that Newcastle should have had a penalty. I don't know. I haven't seen the Fulham incident. I'm pulling a Wenger on that one. I have not seen that.
Did not see it.
But I think you got insert VAR statement with this is another mistake. 2 wrongs don't make a right, even if Fulham should have had a penalty. Again, though, both teams. It was good for Fulham because the one game they couldn't score, they didn't concede. Whereas us, we just can't score. I mean, it's very difficult to create chances when you've got people like Christian Atsu and Jose Perez trying to create chances. It's always going to be difficult. And like Rafa Benitez has said today in the media, it will be a miracle if they stay up because they really do have. If you're not going to say it's the worst team, it's definitely in the bottom 4 teams. And so if they manage to, he finished 10th from last season, God knows how. And then they just sold some players, so they've even worse this season. So yeah, it's about what can be expected there. A 0-0 draw is a point closer to safety.
Yeah, a penalty appeal for both sides was about as good as it got. I listened to Paul Merson sort of talking about the game and watched the highlights myself. If anybody was going to win the game, it looked Newcastle were the more likely out of the 2. But there wasn't any real clear-cut chances from either side. Ranieri certainly be the happier of the 2 managers, and just actually the first clean sheet Fulham have kept in the Premier League since winning 1-0 against Norwich in April 2014. So no, they were out of the Premier League for a couple of years, but they'll certainly be the happier. But Newcastle's form isn't great. They've only won 3 of the last 17 games against promoted sides, and they've only won 2 of the last 10 Premier League games at home. So like Reece has pointed out, the team is not great, and it's certainly, you say, towards the bottom 4 or 5 teams in the league. But Benitez is doing okay at the moment.
15th in the league, that's not bad.
And I think he'll do something similar. Maybe not 10th, because the teams above have all improved a lot more than Newcastle. But I can certainly see them finishing 14th, 15th, which is not what it should be, but I think they'll take that.
Yeah, you take that all day, yeah. Like I said, we won't go into that game in too much depth because there's not an awful lot to talk about. What we will have a little scan through is Southampton and Huddersfield now. Southampton fans will be delighted with how things are going right now. 6 from 6 under Ralph.
Go on.
Hasenhüttl?
Yes.
Hasenhüttl. Did I say? I almost said it wrong. Hasenhüttl.
Yes.
German Klopp. Yeah, there we go. Anyway, so yeah, 3-1 against Huddersfield. To be honest with you, again, I didn't expect Huddersfield to win. I didn't think it would be as convincing, though. I thought Southampton might struggle a little bit because they're still trying to implement everything that he wants. But they've really bought into what he's saying. They clearly like his ideas. They're running the extra mile, which they weren't doing under Mark Hughes, which, again, I find strange. As professionals, I think you should be giving your all the time. But, I mean, if you're not a fan of your boss, you're not a fan of your boss. But it is what it is, I guess.
They got a decent group of lads. Their team's by no means the same team when they were challenging for Europe a few years ago under Pochettino. They've gradually, their recruitment process has really, really hindered them, selling their good players and then chancing that the guys you're going to invest in are good enough. But they've got a striker in Danny Ings, and I'm a big fan of Danny Ings. He knows where the net is. I think he's played 13 times this season and scored 7 goals. So over the course of a season, you're expecting him to get 16, 17 goals. And a team that stays up needs that. I think they're a mid-table team, and if Ralph Hasenhüttl can help them just achieve what they should achieve, they'll be all right. This was a good performance from Southampton.
Yeah, and I mentioned when he came in that he brings a similar style as Klopp. I think they were schooled in a similar way in terms of like a high press. And I said using Nice Spooner about that he would certainly be looking to improve their fitness for the press. And we saw it against Arsenal. Yes, they cramped up towards the end, but probably to be expected after he's making those sort of demands which they're not used to. You could see it in the Huddersfield game. Like you said, they would just run in more for the manager than they would against Mark Hughes. So Southampton fans will be happy, but we've said in a few episodes back as well that their squad is too good to be fighting relegation. It's not an excellent squad, But you mentioned players like Redmond and Austin, and you think it was Ward-Prowse and Danny Ings and players like that. And I just think that the squad of players is too good to be sort of around 18th, 19th, 20th.
Yeah, that's a fair shout. Having a quick look at the some interesting stats from the game, because there are a few actually.
Yeah.
Nathan Redmond scored his first Premier League goal of the season for Southampton with his 28th shot on goal. You would never hire Nathan Redmond to be a hitman, would you? Because he would miss. Put it this way: if Nathan Redmond had shot Tupac, he'd still be alive. Like, he really would, because Nathan Redmond in front of goal. I'm backing the goalkeeper pretty much all day.
But God loves a trier.
He does indeed.
And if you're going to put a positive message out there for any children listening, it's that just keep going, just keep banging at the door, and
keep going. Yeah, no, that's true.
A really good mad stat that I saw was that since the start of last season, I don't know if you got that one there, Huddersfield have had more players booked for diving than any other team.
I haven't got that, no, but so that's interesting to know.
Van Lapara, Pritchard, Depoitre and Lowe have all been booked for diving since the start of last season.
That's incredible, in fairness, that I didn't know that. Also,
weird.
Shout out to my Irish brother. Now, I didn't know he was Irish, actually, in fairness. But Obafemi became the youngest player to score in the Premier League for Southampton, and also the youngest player from the Republic of Ireland to score in the competition.
You do look quite alike as well.
Shout out to Obafemi, my cousin in there. My boy in there. Yeah, I had no idea he was from the Republic of Ireland, so yeah, shout out to him. Yeah, you learn something new every day, I guess. Yeah, I did not expect him to be representing the boys, but yeah, shout out to him. In terms of the game itself, Southampton, like I said, we again not going to go over in too much depth because it's not an awful lot to cover. Huddersfield, we've said our piece on them this season. There's no point really going over them in too much depth either.
They're going to be a championship team next year.
They're a championship team now.
They mathematically can survive quite easily, a couple of wins, but they've only won one game at home this season. You got to win your home games. Their top scorer is Aaron Moy, and he's out for the season. How can your defensive midfielder be a top goal scorer? Explain this to me.
Yeah.
They are terrible. I don't mean to be disrespectful.
No,
they're not a Premier League team. They're trying hard. They got a decent manager. But there's only so much you can do with absolute shit.
Mediocrity is, it's you're not being disrespectful. Really, what you are being is realistic. And I think if a Huddersfield fan wants to try and argue with you or any of us about that, then they are just being unrealistic because they don't score anywhere near enough goals. Away, it would be an issue, but at home, it's a massive problem. They concede way too many goals. They're not short on creating chances, but they just don't have anyone to take them. And the only person who could put the ball in the net occasionally, Aaron Moy, like you say, he's out for the season. So if you're a Huddersfield fan, then you might not like what we're saying, but there isn't really all that much hope for you.
Yeah, very true. All right, we'll lump the next two games in together because Bournemouth, West Ham and Watford, in my eyes, are all top 10 contenders, maybe top 8 contenders. So Bournemouth beat Brighton 2-0, Watford beat West Ham 2-0 as well. What did you learn from those games that you didn't already know?
Well, it's not that I didn't already know it, but I think David Brooks kind of is starting to announce himself as a real quality Premier League player. That's the performance of the weekend for me. I was saying just yesterday, when you watch David Brooks play, what's so rare about him, and I'm not just saying this because he's Welsh, he doesn't seem to run. He seems to float.
Yeah,
he glides.
Yeah, he seems to glide along a pitch. And when he's got the ball, the way he touches the ball, it's like he's ready to change direction and to do like something with it.
A foreign player, like a bit like Maddison, like very technically gifted, sweet left foot.
I think that's a terrific signing for Bournemouth. I thought at the start of the season, is he ready for the Premier League? Yes, he is ready for the Premier League. I'm a big fan of Brooks, and his first goal was terrific.
Oh yeah, terrific.
His second goal wasn't too bad either, using his head.
Yeah.
That bodes really well for Bournemouth, and they put up a lot of good performances. Brighton, I think they'll be a Premier League team next year. Mm-hmm. They don't have a lot of quality. It must be said, they don't. They got a goal scorer up front, and they got a decent player in Pascal Gross, and they haven't got a whole lot else.
Yeah, one thing that they do have going for them is their home form is okay. Brighton,
like we said, you've got to win your home matches.
Yeah,
and they're doing.
And they got two. We joked this before. Duffy and Dunk sounds like a comedy act. But as two centre halves, they put themselves about. They score goals, and they are decent defenders. So there's a bit more about them at home than someone like Huddersfield, or certainly a Fulham. So I agree with. I think that they'll be okay. Just a quick mention to the assisters of the goals for David Brooks. You've got Josh King with the first and Ryan Fraser with the second. A couple of just facts for you. Josh King has been involved in 44 Premier League goals for Bournemouth, 35 goals, 9 assists.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's,
Interesting.
That's more than any other Bournemouth player and 10 more goal involvements than Callum Wilson.
There was talk in the newspapers today about Solskjaer, or it might have been yesterday, maybe it was today, I don't know, about Solskjaer trying to sign Josh King, because Josh King is ex-United.
Yeah.
I think people are just putting 2 and 2 together to get
Yeah,
5
just put a headline,
because you had some column inches to fill.
He's also Norwegian as well, so it kind of fits. That's not the most outlandish thing that could have happened, to be honest. But he's much above the Norwegian league, isn't he? So,
but also as well, I don't know if you guys remember, but very early on in the season, it was when Reece actually was still in the podcast before he moved away. I gave Ryan Fraser Player of the Weekend.
You did, yeah.
Quite some time ago, and you didn't both look at me in disgust, but you looked at me as if to say like that. I didn't see that one coming.
To a degree.
But he assisted again at the weekend, and that's his 8th assist this season in the Premier League, and only Hazard has got more with 9. So it looks to me like he's continuing his good form, and he's looking a bit of a player for them at the moment as well. So you've got Wilson, Brooks, King,
Ake as well in defence,
and Fraser. Yeah, so that them 4 sort of up top for them are really important to them at the moment. But just to kind of go into the next game, West Ham Watford. Probably you're going to mention what you always say about the reason why you don't bet.
100%.
That one again. So
100%.
You got Watford, I think, move up to 7th now. But you would have had West Ham to win that game when they've won 4 on the bounce at home. You got players like Felipe Anderson, Hernandez, Snodgrass, Mikel Antonio, all playing very, very well. But it just weren't their day. Do you see the highlights?
I did, yeah. I did, yeah.
Very, very unlucky.
Dale Fail with a great goal as well.
But Hernandez missed a whole host of chances. Antonio hit the bar when he really should have scored. So I think they'll just bounce back straight away, West Ham. But they just wasn't to be on the day. Yeah,
we got that sort of mini league developing where you've got Watford who are 7th on 27 points, Bournemouth at 8th on 26, Leicester 9th on 25, Wolves 10 on 25, Everton 11th on 24, West Ham 12 on 24. So realistically, it's a nice little league that's appearing on its own.
Best of the rest,
best of the rest. Yeah. So shout out to all of them. They're making it interesting this season. And David Brooks, what a player. Technically, I think he could be Latin American, the way he moves with that left foot. He check his passport, please, because he is definitely not from wherever he's from. I've serious doubts about him being English or Welsh, so to speak. Because he's one of those naturalised Welsh lads, and he's not really Welsh.
It's all about the grandfather from Caerphilly. That's all it's all about.
That's exactly
that's all isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm interested to hear your plays of the weekend.
I'm going Brooks.
Yeah, same Brooks.
I'm actually going to go with Wan-Bissaka myself. I thought that he's one of the only people this season that has managed to get Sane in his back pocket. Couldn't get past him. Every time he ran, he was just too quick for him. Sane had to come inside in the end, and he just wasn't really able to create nothing apart from the free kick which struck the post. He was good going forward, and he was just solid defensively. So Wan-Bissaka this season has sort of had a few good wingers in his pocket. So I think he was a massive part in them getting 3 points. So he's mine.
Alright, cool. So we leave it there with the Premier League stuff. We've got a few questions that people have sent in. If you want us to answer any questions, feel free to tweet us, let us know, if you've got our numbers, text us, whatever you want to do. We will try and make this a regular thing if we get enough questions. So we'll happily do it every week. In terms of the questions that we've got, I think we had 1 or 2, mostly in relation to United. So apologies if it comes across as United bias. They're just the questions that were asked. If Liverpool fans or anybody else wants to get in touch with us, let us know. We'll happily answer any questions for you. First and foremost was Pete Williams, the baby making machine himself. If you know Pete, you know he's probably busy with his 78 kids. So when he's done with them,
14 Christmas trees as well.
Exactly. Yeah, you can watch this, Pete, and we'll have your answers. He messaged us on Twitter and said, one for your next podcast, pinpoint the summer signings needed to make Man United title contenders for next season. Unless they buy Jesus and clone him 11 times, I can't see them winning anything next season.
I think in the last episode, you said that we needed about 8 players.
Yeah.
We went
and the rest.
We went just to make the starting 11 up to title contenders, let alone the squad. But I'll pass this one over to Reece because he'll have a field day with this one.
Like we said at the start of the season, I don't think I don't think it's changed so much. I mean, at the start of the season, you guys said that Fred could have been the answer, and this, but I said you still needed someone there. I think you need someone to replace your right back. Valencia's too old.
True.
You can't be relying on him if you want to win a title. Luke Shaw, for me, we'll disagree on this, but I don't think Luke Shaw is your answer for a title-winning team.
Really?
No. I think you can't rely on him to be fit all season for a start.
That's a fair point.
And I feel like he's too easily beaten. Going forward, he's great.
You sound like Mourinho right now.
But and then I don't believe the two centre halves, any of the centre halves in your club, should be getting a starting spot in any successful team.
Yeah.
So I think there's your back four. You're looking at people like you need to invest heavily. It couldn't be a young player that has potential, because like we've seen in the past with Smalling, with Jones, by Lindelof, it's never worked. So you're gonna have to be looking at people like Samuel Umtiti, who's got years left in him, and you're going to have to pay through the roof for him. Koulibaly is another excellent example of a player that could come. You've got your Hummels, you've got your German defenders. People like this, you could look at Kimmich for right back.
Kimmich would be lovely.
Like I said, anyone you sign is going to have to be extortionately expensive, but like we know, Manchester United, they can afford it. They also need a good player in the middle of the park. And to be honest with you, I just don't see Lukaku as a title-winning striker. I just don't see it. He's not your player who's going to be winning PFA Player of the Years. And
what do you make of a United front three of Martial, Rashford, and Lingard?
I've always been a big fan of Anthony Martial. Ever since he was at Monaco, I've watched him, and I've always thought he's direct and he's exciting. And I think the stick he comes under is unfair, because I feel it's a product of Mourinho's defensive tactics just not suiting him. I like Rashford. Whether he can be the main man at a club like Manchester United is, for me, it's dubious. I don't feel he's anywhere near consistent enough. And I think that Lingard, whilst he's a worker, he works hard, and he's got a decent end product, there's no way he's ever going to be in a title-winning side in terms of league or Champions League or World Cup or anything like that.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's an interesting take. You actually touched upon it there, the United midfield. We had another question off of Mitchell. Mitchell_Amos, your people, I believe, is it?
Yep.
Yeah, your people. Shout out to Mitchell for the question. He says, "Hi guys, love the podcast. It's clear that Man United's midfield is missing a real pass to the ball, for example, a Toni Kroos or Thiago. My question is, who do they get and who is available?" Now, I tweeted him back, and I said Isco, because I think Isco would be a great signing. Yourselves, anyone in particular, you as a United fan?
First of all, before you go in, I'd like to respond to Isco.
I don't think Isco.
Isco and Thiago, we're talking different parts of the pitch. If you're going to want someone to manipulate the possession, you're not going to want him to play behind the striker, which is where Isco really starts to play.
I don't know, man. I think he's very versatile.
He's a more advanced player than what Toni Kroos could be, right?
To a degree, yeah.
For me, if I was United, I'd be thinking, next year we're not winning the title. We're not. We're going to have to spend far too much money in order to get a team that's going to win the title. And even if you spent the money, there's no guarantee that those players will gel at first. I'd be looking at a player like Arthur Melo. I'd be looking at... he's very young.
What about Rakitic?
Never get him from Barcelona.
Rakitic is getting older. But yes, he would do in the short term. You look at your Vidals, who could do a job short term. I think Thiago is a very, very good shout for Manchester United. I think he's a bit lightweight, but when you've got Matic...
They almost had him as well.
When you've got Matic and Pogba, I think Thiago, when United were linked with him in the past, wasn't ready. But now he's had that experience in a title-winning side, and he's a winner. And I think he could potentially be one. But I think the person I'd probably go for, if I had the budget, I'd probably look at someone like Corentin Tolisso.
At Bayern.
Yeah, I think he'd be a very, very good acquisition. I think he'd fit in as well next to Pogba, because they've played together a lot with France. And maybe if you were going to buy a big French defender or something, or a German defender from Bayern Munich, I think they'd already have experience of playing together. But for me, I think I'd probably go with a realistic signing, Corentin Tolisso.
Cool. Becky?
Rakitic would be mine.
Rakitic. All right, cool. Just going back to Pete's question as well. There's so many signings United could make.
They're linked with everyone.
They'll be linked with everyone, because this is the sort of midway point of the season where agents are going, okay, we spent all our money at Christmas, we need to move a few players along and recoup some funds. United probably need at least 7 or 8 players. Like Reece said, they need a right back. They need at least 2 decent centre halves. I personally think they need another left back to compete with Shaw. They need a ball playing midfielder. They need at least one winger if you're going to keep Lukaku to supply him with chances. And you need a backup for Lukaku so someone can come in as well. So you're looking 7, 8 players easily. And depending if Romero stays, because I don't think he will want to be De Gea's understudy much longer, you might need another goalkeeper to come in. But those are the 2 questions we had that were, well, I say the 2 questions. We actually have a third that's Man United related. The third one was from Chris Eels. Getting your peoples? Yeah. Now he says, Man United looking for a manager, and there's a certain Argentine genius who every club should be looking at. He's already at a top club, but you think he would consider making the switch from the end of the season, or would he be better off staying at Leeds? Marco B.
Yeah, first of all, Leeds aren't a top club.
Bold statement.
They're a big club, but they're definitely not a top club. And if we're going to be serious about including Marco Bielsa in a shortlist for the potential managerial vacancy at Manchester United next summer, then you'd have to say that he doesn't. I don't think he plays anywhere near the style of football that Manchester United need, and also he's not got the experience at a top team. Regardless of what your stance on what Leeds are, they're in the Championship. Touch on Leeds, I think it's gonna. You'd have to judge on what happens in the next 6 months. I think a lot of Leeds fans out there, there's a huge optimism with Leeds. They're 6 points clear of 3rd place, which is massive at Christmas in the Championship. But I remember a season where Sunderland were in the bottom 3 and they ended up getting promoted. So a lot can change in the Championship. I remember Newcastle a while ago, they were 10 points clear and they scraped it on the final day. So I think don't get carried away, because if they do end up dropping out of the top 3, then it's Bielsa who will be sacked.
Leeds are notorious for falling off the pace as well, second half of the season, so I wouldn't get too carried away.
What I would say though is that with Leeds, they were 2-0 down against Aston Villa over the weekend. They came back and they won 3-2, and results like that can really galvanise a group of players. I remember Newcastle being 3-1 down to Norwich in the Championship, and they'd lost their first 2 games, and if they'd lost that game to Norwich, then they probably would still be in the Championship, but they ended up winning it in 4-3 with 3 goals in injury time, and they just went on a huge run after that. So hopefully from a Leeds point of view, they will kick on now and solidify the hold that they've got in the Championship. But when you look at teams like Newcastle with Wolves, other teams that have gone up and like Bournemouth who stormed the Championship, I don't look at Leeds that way. I don't look at Leeds, and they don't have a player like a John Joe Shelby, like a Ruben Neves, like a Matt Ritchie when he was at Bournemouth that season. They don't have that standout player for me that's going to catapult them into the Premier League. So I think there's a huge
Pontus Jansson.
No, Pontus Jansson. No. I think there's a long way to go for Leeds. I would say to Chris, don't get carried away. Bielsa will be lucky to be at Leeds next season, let alone Manchester United.
And there you have it, Chris. So yeah, Merry Christmas to you. All right, Becky, do we have a Euro roundup as well, quick?
Yeah, I'll come to the Euro roundup in a second, but I just want to shine a little bit of light on the Champions League draw.
Oh yeah, cool, yeah.
Now, I'm going to ask you to a few questions. What I don't want from you is the usual, which we are all guilty of, is analysing. I'm going to name you the ties, and I don't want any other word other than the name of the club that's going to win the tie.
Cool.
Okay?
Right, we got this.
Okay? Then I'm also
let us know your thoughts as well, people, about the draw too.
And I'm also going to ask you outright winners and your surprise package as well. We'll come to that, okay? So I'll go Reece first every time, okay? Right. So United, PSG.
PSG.
Spooner?
PSG.
Okay. And we've got Roma, Porto.
Roma.
Yeah, I'm going Roma as well, yeah.
Okay. Ajax, Real Madrid.
Madrid.
Ajax. Nobody joking. Real Madrid.
Tough one coming. Spurs, Dortmund.
I'd go Dortmund here.
I'm going to say Spurs.
Interesting.
I think probably Spurs will get a 2-0 lead and surprise bottle it.
Spurs fans going to come for you, man.
Come for you in your sleep.
Let them come.
Moving on. Liverpool versus Bayern Munich. Tasty.
I actually... it's hard. If Liverpool
It's not one word, Reece. It's not one word. Try again.
Munich.
Liverpool.
Lyon, Barcelona.
Barca.
Yeah, Barca, yeah.
Another tough one. Atletico Madrid, Juve.
Atletico Madrid.
Juve.
And then last but not least, Schalke versus Man City.
Man City.
Yeah, Pep's boys all day.
Yeah, I agree with most of those. I'm just going to skim over them one more very quickly. I would go PSG, Porto, Real Madrid, Dortmund, Munich, Barca, Juve, and City.
So all the teams that are away then.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, put a bet on that.
Yeah.
All teams that are away in the first leg. So just wanted to sort of draw a little bit of attention to that because there's some really tasty ties in that last 16. And I think it's 3 of the 4 English sides are against German opposition. So really looking forward to that. Just to very, very quickly go over the European headlines of the week. So not surprisingly, PSG have extended their lead at the top of the French League 1 to 13 points. That's right, you did hear that correct. It is 13 points. Mbappe grabbing the only goal there. Well, who did they beat, Reece?
I would say that was Nantes.
No. Yeah, not Nantes. Juventus beat Roma 1-0 as well to stay 8 points clear of Napoli with Mandzukic scoring again. Ronaldo is bagging some goals there, but Mandzukic is really chipping in as well. So he's not like he was with Madrid, the only guy getting the goals. It's a bit more evenly spread there as well. Yeah,
don't forget, every year that goes by, clubs can afford to be less and less reliant on a 33-year-old.
Yeah, that's true. Frank Ribery, and one for the old guard. His double helped Bayern Munich reduce the gap to 6 points on Dortmund. You think that I'll just cover Dortmund quickly. Jadon Sancho scored his 7th goal of the season, and they want to win as well to stay top of the table over Mönchengladbach.
Didn't even see that goal.
I haven't seen it. No,
that goal was actually unbelievable. Jadon Sancho is going to be such a good player.
Star.
Yeah, and they were 9 points clear, but they did drop points. I think it was midweek, so it's down to 6 now. Anyone see Bayern catching them? Or do you think Dortmund will hang on?
Nah, it's Dortmund.
They're in such good form, Dortmund.
Well,
they've got a good team.
They lost just last week.
Yeah, but they got such a great team.
Yeah.
Their season has been so good.
I do actually think that Bayern are going to overcome them. I just think their squad's better.
Nah,
I think it's too much.
I think it's Dortmund's time now.
Nah, possibly, but I'm going to go against you like you've done against me all podcast.
No, that's fine. Yeah,
and go Bayern on that one. Barca cruise again to a 2-0 win at Celta Vigo. Atletico Madrid still trail by only 3 points though, and we know that Real Madrid won the World Club Cup for a record 4th time, so they got game in hand. So then, for as bad as they've been this season, I think they're only sort of 4 or 5 points behind with games in hand now. So this last one's a little bit weird. Okay, I'm just going to put this one out there because I read this and I thought I have to mention it to you. So the Swedish champions at AIK. Okay, now what they're doing as a Christmas gift for its fans is they are selling former club captain Nils Erik Johansson's crystallized DNA, okay, for 3,499 Swedish krona,
really?
Which is £307. That's correct. You did hear me right the first time. And when questioned about this, now you can read more on this on BBC Sport, right? Because it's under the European football headlines. When he was questioned on the reason for this, he simply said, "You can bring your favourite player home with you, keep him, and have him for a very long time. Lots of fans like to collect things."
Yeah, and then he'll score an own goal and he'll throw it straight out the window.
It's like something from Jurassic Park, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a weird thing.
Just to
be honest with you, if I was a big football fan, I probably wouldn't want AIK's captain's DNA. I'd probably look for...
Would you pay £307 for Alan Shearer's crystallised DNA?
How did they really arrive at that price is what I want to know.
No, I can actually tell you the answer to that. He had 307 appearances for AIK, and it's one for every appearance.
Right, okay.
So he reckons that part of his journey and life story is in every single bottle.
What is it? Just a used sock or something?
No, it's in like a proper it comes in like a proper luxurious box you'd expect for 307 fucking pounds. But it looks all fancy. But at the end of the day, it's his DNA, and it's 99% not 100, so it can't be planted at a crime scene. As questions that have been asked.
Wow.
So he's kept that 1% unique to him, so it can't ever fully be used or tampered with.
And in Sweden as well, it gets delivered by yodeling as well.
I don't know why
Bizarre,
you would ever want that.
I just thought that I'd bring that one up for you. But that's it from the Euro corner.
All right, cool. That's quite a way to end it, isn't it? Crystallization of DNA. I didn't think we'd be getting to that point in this podcast. But yeah, we'll wrap it up here. We'll be back after the Boxing Day fixtures. This is being recorded Christmas Eve. It should be out hopefully Christmas Eve or Christmas Day at the latest. So make sure you tune in. We'll all be back though, as I say, with the Boxing Day fixtures. Once those fixtures are passed, we'll give you our analysis and just a general take on the world. So remember, follow us on Twitter at VandVPodcast. IG page is still under construction, but it's getting there, so make sure you follow that too. Subscribe on the YouTube channel. If you like it all, tell a friend. If you rather just the audio format and you actually don't like the look of us, that's fine. Fuck you anyway. But the SoundCloud
Reese has definitely got a face for radio.
the SoundCloud links, they're all on the Twitter page, so feel free to utilize them as well. They are still quite popular. So yeah, we'll be back pretty shortly over the next few days. Till then, have a Merry Christmas, and we'll see you next time. Ciao, people.